Bronwyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's great to be here.
Indeed it is. And I believe you've just come back from an international conference. Is that right?
Yeah, Big Picture Education Conference in Sydney.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that. What's a Big Picture conference?
So Big Picture learning is a pedagogy or a design philosophy. It's not a curriculum. It's about approaching learning differently, very much more personalised, very student-centred, very focused around building relationships and I guess treating students with respect, and I don't, I mean wholehearted person respect, and letting kids follow their passions and interests, and yeah, it engages them in their learning.
It would too, and also back to your leadership approach, even though you're part of this big picture community, and as you said, that pedagogy is something that you're interested in and have followed for some time, you'd still have schools like yours that you've led that are totally different to the others, despite having that pedagogical similarity because of the students.
Because of the students, because of we're the only big picture school in Victoria. New South Wales Education Department has got behind big picture learning well and truly. I heard one of the speakers was the Deputy Secretary of the department, and she just spoke so passionately about public education and the way Big Picture interacts with young people and how much better it prepares them for university, and the studies that they've done to show that. Whereas, so in New South Wales, a principal can enrol his student as being in the International Big Picture Learner credential. In Victoria, I can't. I have to enrol my students in VCE, so VCE VM, vocational major, and from there, we actually work to try and get our students both qualifications, and it's not hard at all, because big picture is a better model than VM. So students are having to achieve higher or display higher levels of competencies in on their certification, and it's warranted by University of Melbourne. It's psychometrically analysed, and there's large parts of it now that are becoming the new metrics that Professor Sandra Milligan talks about, and a growing number of private schools around Australia are opting into. But in Victoria, it's not a recognised, IBPLC is not a recognised qualification by the VRQA. So we work to get the kids both.
What we've actually got is schools, we're hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that schools in Victoria boast about having individual learning plans. And we also hear educators in Victoria rightly saying that that's a challenge for them with their time management and their workload. And yet, wouldn't that sort of be in synergy with big picture? So with that, what do you think is stopping Victorian Department of Education going down this path?
I don't know. I historically I would have said personnel, but the personnel are no longer with the department. I know how hard Big Picture has, as an organisation, has battled to try and just get meetings. I know we met with people from VRQA who were really super impressed with the learner credentials, and we're looking at, well, how do we grow that? How do we scope it up? And some of those things are now included in the VCE VM, which is interesting that some of the wording is very, very close to it. Whether that would be acknowledged or not, I don't know. But yeah, big picture isn't Victorian government doesn't like to recognise things that aren't theirs, I guess. So whereas
Mhm.
New South Wales has invested really heavily in big picture learning and is trying to get it into more and more of their schools. They're a far larger organisation than Education Department in Victoria.
Yeah, I believe they're the largest education department in the Southern Hemisphere, New South
They're
Wales.
huge.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And
And
it's such
go
a
ahead.
range from remote and rural to suburban and city as well. And yeah, they just see the value of it in terms of engaging kids in education.
Mm.
When kids are disengaging at the rate that they're disengaging, and when there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of young people in each capital city who no one knows where they are. Like schools don't know where they are. Government doesn't know where they are. They're not in a school, but where are they? It's unknown.
Yes, there's been some recent figures coming out of the number of absenteeisms in schools, and if they're already enrolled and they're absent, this relationship between home and school is critical. And obviously, there's others who may be involved in foster care or other unfortunate or difficult, I shouldn't say unfortunate, albeit that it is uh, difficult situations. It really does lend itself to what you're saying here is conversations that have to be had around the value of schools and what they bring. And it seems as though change is on the horizon in New South Wales, whether or not we know all of the big picture and what their intentions are. It comes back to what your goals have always been, and that's your students. And I know that you're very much around, if they've gone from school to school to school, it's not a failure. They've just found a different and more, suitable fit.
The schools have failed them. That's always been my point. If if a kid's moving from school to school, the school has failed them. Kids don't leave a school where they are happy and settled and learning. And regardless of, I've always found consistently young people's um, circumstances in the world, they want to learn. They want to do well at school. They hold that very dear to them. Um, they'll throw up the barricades and barriers as soon as that starts to get hard for them. But succeeding at school shouldn't be hard for kids in Australia.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I know that you've mentioned that a number of times, and I commend you for saying that there are schools that fail students. And it's an important thing for our educational leaders to acknowledge and accept that that's the case and not assume that, it's the system's fault. Ultimately, it's the school itself, or sorry, the people working in the school or school workforce that are face to face with our students every day. And I recall you saying to me in another interview we've had in the past, the trying sort of philosophy that a lot of uh, past leaders have had. Talk us through that.
Oh, we've tried everything, Bronwyn. We've tried everything. And I say, okay, tell me what you've done, and I get a list of maybe three things, and in my head I do the maths, and I think, well, you're at a school of 900, you've got at least 90 kids that would benefit from an in-house alternative program. You got a school of 1,500, you've got 150 kids. That's my entire school size who would benefit from a different model of education. Just what's one thing? What's just one thing you could do differently that would make a difference? And when everyone's comfortable doing that one thing differently, what's another thing that you could do? And it's that I don't know if it's closed mindset, if it's fear of what will happen if they do something different, if it's this imagined expectation of parents, which will come from some parents, but others are saying, I expect you to educate my child because I live across the road from you,
Yeah.
and or around the corner. And I want my kid going to their local school. That's where their friends go. Why can't you look after my child? And there are I'm completely bewildered by some of the things that happen to some young people in in a government institution, and that's what schools are. I am bewildered that teachers forget that they are public servants and that their
That
job is to serve.
that's a huge point, Bronwyn, and you've raised a lot in just that, answer there. Parents, the perception of parent issues, the lack of diversity of opportunity for students, the fact that we've got people employed within the government services or public sector who don't really identify with that responsibility. So there's lots for us to talk about. Let's just move on, though, to some of the great successes you've had and some of the students that I mean, I'm sure you stand tall and proud with all of your students, but there'd be a few stories that stand out.
Yeah, they have, and uh, it's hard to decide which one to tell on any particular day. I guess in terms of um, your audience, there's one I can think of that I won't select because the language is a bit colourful, and you know me in language, so I'll
Yes.
stay out of that one. Um, we had a young man, and it's just one of many young men who have come in who have been completely withdrawn and disconnected from every other kid in in the school, and that's a big thing because it's they have to start anew when they come to us. But he would spend his lunchtime sitting under a table in the computer room and just reading a book, eating his lunch, reading a book. And I started going down and taking my lunch and a book and just getting under the tables with him. I'd have a lot of trouble doing that these days, but and I did that, climb under the table, sit there and read my book, and I'd note that he'd had, you know, two slices of white bread, thinly buttered, with one piece of Strasbourg in it. So, um, I tried to not take flash lunches, which is not hard for me, in there as well. And then been doing it for, I don't know, every day for about 9 or 10 days. And he said to me, "Why do you come here?" I said, "It's so
Mm.
quiet. Why do you come here?" And he went, "Oh, same reason." And, we just, I didn't initiate anything with him. I just waited. It was going to take as long as it took. Um, and then, I let him lead the conversations until he was comfortable talking um, to me. And then I asked him more about himself and what he liked. And he loved reading and he loved art. And so I connected him with the art teacher and got him to start going into the art classes when they were available. And then he was spending every available art class in there, and his skills developed, and he's just the most beautiful life drawer. Um, the whether that's the human body or fruit in a bowl or whatever else, and um, slowly his confidence grew. We had an art display one night, and it was on the basis of everything would be for sale because we were trying to teach the kids, get the kids to realize that their work has value. And there was an adult who came up and said, "How much is this one?" I said, "I don't know. I'll go and find the artist." And I went and found him and brought him back and said, how you've got someone here wants to buy your work. How much um, will you pay? Do you want for it? And he went, "Oh, $5."
Oh, God
And
love him.
and she happened to be an art teacher, and she said, um, "I wouldn't pay you less than $200 for it.
Oh,
And if you
fantastic.
sign it, if you sign it, I will make it $500. And so he signed it and got $500 in hand and just standing there absolutely amazed.
Wow.
We got him into still wasn't the most confident kid in the world. We got him into um, a TAFE art course, and then he did a diploma of fine arts, stepped through the TAFE and into university and did that. And then he was awarded a 2-year scholarship in Finland to the world's leading life drawing university. And yeah, spent two
That's
years
incredible.
there. Didn't didn't speak another language. Just and then he was tutoring over there, and his work is it's phenomenal. Is yeah.
Bronwyn, I am a big advocate of getting rid of the Department of Education and having an independent board of education so voices like yours can make the difference. And you've just heard here, everyone, that that can even begin with sitting under the table having some lunch with a student. It's extraordinary. It's a great story, Bronwyn, and credit to all that you do for the individuals that know that they are worthy more than $5, but 500 in that that instance that you
Yeah.
just said. Thanks so much for joining us. It's always great to listen to you and great to learn from you. If our listeners would like to learn more or get in touch, how do they do that?
Our website has a range of video stories about past students and graduates. That particular young man is Matthew. There's a story there about Lucas, who now
Great.
works for me as a classroom aide. And there's Esther, who's a current student, and Josiah. So, they're, I think who is at risk of not completing secondary education, it's a bit of a misnomer. People think they're all kids who get in trouble and do drugs, and they're not. They're not. It's the percentage of kids at risk of not completing education is steadily creeping towards 50%.